Welcome to Live from the Heart podcast. My name is Anne-Claire Méret. I help beautiful beings feeling empowered to create their lives. I coach, teach, create programs, write books, among other things, and I love it. It took me years of healing and coaching, but I finally found the way back to my heart. Today I thrive and help people thrive too. Everything is happening faster and faster. I feel we are being supported in so many ways. I know we can thrive on a collective level. If you want to create from your heart, you're in the right place. Welcome to this episode, which has been recorded in 2021, and I was pretty lazy to post it, and I apologize to Alex for this. I hope you enjoy this episode very much. I plan on doing more episodes in English, and stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of Live from the Heart. I'm very happy to welcome today Alex Lambert, which already has been here in the podcast in French. It's episode number 7, if you want to listen to it in French. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Anne-Claire. Excited for an English version this time.
Yeah, so excited. So you're in Bali. I had the chance to meet you in real life and hug you in real life before all of this happened in Bali. And you've been an amazing source of inspiration for me with your podcasts, with everything you created in the crypto world. You are for me such an inspiration. I think we call people like you trailblazers or something like that in English, like opening the path. And I'm very grateful for you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Anne-Claire. And likewise, I was very inspired by you when I interviewed you in my podcast when we were both in Bali together 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it in the middle of nature. It was, we were so naive back then. Yeah.
And it was in English already. I think it's more and more common. I listen to more and more podcasts and interview of you'd have two French people, but they speak English because let's face it, it's become the language of the internet. And if you travel, everything's done in English now. So I think it's a good habit to have to touch and talk to more people.
Yeah, totally. Can you please introduce yourself with your own words?
Yes, I grew up in Paris. I did a prestigious business school called HEC, HEC, HEC. And usually that path goes a lot towards can be a banker or a consultant at like McKinsey, some are also in the startup world, but more that traditional business education. And I, after a year in finance, I decided it wasn't for me. I felt it was boring. I went to Australia to grow startup, and 4 years ago, I had a bit of an awakening, like a spiritual awakening, because I wasn't really into spirituality before. I was more into uh, entrepreneurship to be successful and to make money, and now I'm really passionate about creating a world where people have more freedom, that's more fair, and what system we can use for that. So in the past 4 years, I started doing more personal development program, and recently it has shifted more towards a big interest in cryptocurrencies and also in systems in general that preserve people's freedom. I think it's really important right now. So privacy on the internet, and how we can, let's say, reclaim sovereignty in general. How can we have sovereignty over our money, personal freedom, traveling, freedom of speech, and having the right tools for that.
What I find amazing in your journey is that not only you were doing research and finding information, but you were doing also a lot of experiences so that you could deep down figure out what was true for you and what felt right.
Mm.
What happened?
Yeah, I think I'm just very curious. So I I really recommend listening to podcasts and audiobooks. For me, it's been a big change. So I read the 4 Hour Work Week when I was 20, and then I forgot a bit about it. But in the past 4 or 5 years, I've experimented a lot. So following Tim Ferriss, for example, that gave me the envy to do things differently, do my own company, my startups, and then following him, get into meditation, try psychedelics, and just trying new things in general. So now I really like yeah, just learning new things. I'm learning new instruments. I'm doing new courses, workshops, personal development programs, and I really think being curious is super important. And for me, I feel like I'm more and more, people sometimes they get older and they get less and less curious. I find it's really good to cultivate that childlike almost attitude of learning new things. Like instruments is a good example. I didn't learn an instrument before 3 years ago, and I've started learning the sax and then the ukulele and the guitar. And last week I bought a didgeridoo.
Oh, that's wonderful. It reminds me this French saying, la curiosité est un vilain défaut. Being curious is like a default, something that you should not be doing because you don't know what you're going to find. And I think a lot of people are still blocked into this old way of thinking, like, oh, but if I'm too curious, it's not so good. But actually, you're the example that by being curious, you followed your true joy and what was truly resonating for you.
Yeah, yeah, and being curious and just trying out stuff. Some people sometimes they'll be curious about something, but they have a lot of fear. So, which is normal, right? It's okay. But for example, when I quit my job 3 years ago, I was curious about, oh, what if I started? I was in Australia at the time, living between Australia and Bali, and doing personal development programs. And I was curious, but I also dared to do it. So there's like different stages. I feel one is being I like that I'm curious, and then also daring to try is an important one.
Mm. Um, what do you think is the difference between you who are creating your life and really being truly responsible on many, many levels, many layers that you explore and that you make bold choices for your life? And what's the difference between someone like you who's truly doing it and someone who's just like, you know, doing just like here and there bits of stuff, but that does not make a big change in their lives?
Mm. Well, it's hard to say for me because I'm not in their head, but I can try and guess. I think, well, look, to start with, if people are very content in a life that is more within the usual frame, why not? So I think it depends, but I guess usually people who would listen to your podcast, they're probably curious already, like, and
Yeah.
so from there it's more taking the leap of faith. So to me, there's, like, if I were to put it in three categories, first is the influence you have around you. So I think it's really important to have the right influence. So it can be your friends, it can be the things you read, the things you listen to. So for me, listening to podcasts, reading certain books, and also starting to surround myself with people who are more aligned with that way of living. Um, like, for example, now living in Bali, my whole network is into personal development, into entrepreneurship, into designing a life you love. Like, people aren't
Mm.
here randomly, especially at a time like now. So that influence very important. That's one first thing. A second thing I find that really helped me is the work on myself. Things like meditating every day, can be even going to the gym, it can be doing visualization work, some kind of retreats, But doing things that, so you have the right influence around you, and then you work on yourself. um, I think that that's important, and especially on our minds, so we don't create extra hurdles out of fear of what other people will think, of fear of failure, any kind of fears. And the third thing would be to take action. So I'll give an example. Me starting my podcast. Well, first, listening to podcaster talking about starting a podcast really helped, and especially helped the mindset. And then knowing people around me who were doing it, felt like, I thought, why not me? When
Mm.
maybe otherwise I would have some kind of imposter syndrome, right? So
Yeah.
then I have this, and then maybe I meditate on it, I visualize it. So I did that, feeling into how it would be to get myself used to being that person, and then actually doing it, record that first episode. So I think that's key things. Like a, almost like a loop, a feedback loop, a virtuous cycle that I try to do from what I feed to my brain, plus my inner space practices, plus the actions I take then in the world.
Mm. Yeah, this is inspiring. But listen to you, we can hear that it takes some kind of self mastery and a commitment towards yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about personal development, and not in a way that comes like you need to hustle to be a better person and you're not good enough, and all that. But again, just from a curiosity and excitement, um, that yeah, I don't really know. I'm just excited about new things and
Yeah.
developing myself.
Yeah. And what is awesome is that every time you discover something that is gold for you, you share it with the world, with your podcasts, with your Telegram channel, Instagram sometimes, but you're not so much there because censorship. Yeah, you share it. You're very generous.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Well, I enjoy sharing it, so it's generous and very selfish at the same time, because I just like to share my experiences. And yeah, talking about being curious and see what's possible in the world, that comes with also, I think, something really important at the moment, which is challenging the status quo, challenging what we're told. And yeah, I think they go really well together, because like you need to get rid of the old to create the new too.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so you're very awake regarding what's happening in the world, and you've been pretty bold sharing your thoughts. Was it difficult for you to speak your truth?
It is less and less difficult, but it takes a bit of time. Let's take a polarizing topic, right? What's happening in the world right now with the COVID situation? And there's a whole spectrum of opinions, but to caricature, some people thinking, um, well, there's a virus, and states are doing what they can to help, um, that doesn't kill too many people. And then there are people like me that think there is a lot behind it, which is willingness to control more people.
Hmm.
And what was your question again?
Was it difficult to speak your truth?
Yeah. So on something like this, about a year and a half ago, for example, I shared an interview on London Real with David Icke, who's quite, let's say, a famous conspiracy theorist in
It's
the
awesome.
yeah, but in the classical label. And so I shared the interview saying, well, those are right at the beginning of the lockdowns. Well, if you, I'm just saying, like, listen to this to have a different opinion. And it's true that if you wanted something that would be good to control people, nothing better than a virus. Because even with terrorism, if you tell me, oh, terrorism is horrible, you should be afraid, and I think, well, I'm not that afraid, I'll still go in the streets, it's really hard to justify and tell me, well, no, you can't, you know.
Yeah.
Well, here you have something that's very where you can shame people a lot, and so I shared that, and I could see the reaction. If you, I think you, I'm still on Facebook for a few weeks because I want to download my data. But if you go there, I have people from my family, people from like my old friends saying it's stupid, it's irresponsible, it's dangerous. You're gonna kill old people, and so yeah, in that way it's not easy. I had prepared myself a little bit of in speaking my truth, but I feel with these more polarizing events it got in a way more challenging and at the same time liberating. So read the comments, not that nice, but then it's like, well, it's not that bad either, just people get triggered, and there's a lot of freedom and liberation that comes from speaking your truth and realizing that it can trigger people, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess it comes also from deep wounds that we all carry from childhood, of having been felt rejected sometimes by family members or friends, and this is reactivating the fear of not belonging to the groups. And
Yeah,
um, since you've already taken your own path and getting away from people from the finance, people from your old world, you've already taken some steps ahead to get ready for uh, standing in your truth, disregarding whatever the world is saying. You
yeah,
got prepared for this.
yeah. There's what you said about, belonging. I think it's Gabor Mate. He talks about when we're children, when faced between being authentic and belonging, we'll always choose belonging and sacrifice our authenticity because that's mechanism to survive
Yeah.
deep down biologically from the times of the tribes, and it's still in us. But fortunately now it's not. It's like we can be speaking our truth, and we won't die alone in the forest. We can find a tribe that resonates with the truth we're speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
How was it? How was it for you? Because you've also been more and more speaking up in the modern times, and I could see some people who have been following, uh, Anne Claire naturopath, and then maybe read, loved you, and maybe then read some of your comments and captions, and were like, "What? Oh no, I don't follow that."
Well, last year it was pretty difficult at the beginning when I started to say I don't want to wear a mask. That was the first step, saying that I found that masks were disgusting and that I didn't want to put them on my face, full of chemicals, and also touching them with my hands and stuff. I felt that it was dirty, and people started to say that I was dangerous. And I didn't consider myself being dangerous. I considered being healthy, and this whole you don't have symptoms but you can still kill people, it just does not make sense to me. And so whatever does not make sense, I cannot agree to that, even if it's to belong to the group, even if it's to not make waves and to just continue being liked. I don't want to be liked by people who are like that. You see what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it was very clear.
Well, again, it does create for sure. When I talked about challenging the old and taking some distance to help create the new, is the same with relationship, whether it's more intimate relationships like your friends and inner circles, or even your clients and followers, which is then you make space also to talk to people you're more aligned with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It made space, totally. I can see it with my community, my followership. A lot of people left and new people arrived, and we are much more aligned. And it's not true to think that you're going to lose business or you're going to lose opportunities. Yes, there might be a bit of a down, but then the right people will come to you. And I've
Mm.
had amazing time as a business owner. It's been working like super successfully since the beginning of the Corona circus. For me, it was no problem. So it was a big example for me to show me that speaking my truth was actually a good path for a true success from my heart, which is much better, much nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, and for example, I have a podcast. It's called The Light Leaders, and I interview people who are passionate about raising the consciousness of our planet. And it goes from a lot of personal development, people into can be tantra, meditation, and also crypto, and people who have different views on the world. I interview them too. And actually, by far, my best episode was the one with Sasha Stone. So he's someone here in Bali, but internationally very known